The Seattle Mariners played maybe their best series of the year down in San Diego, sweeping away the Dads. Joe are going to talk about how they did it, how good this pitching staff was, and honestly, I don't think any of us expected this. We're then going to talk about some reinforcements that could be coming because Joe made a video the other day about Cole Young potentially being called up. We're going to expand on that a little bit and get my thoughts on it. Joe's going to give you his Operation Overreaction this time because he didn't last time.
I will actually.
He'll actually do it. And then we're going to talk about the Chicago White Sox series coming up starting tomorrow. Thank you guys so much for watching episode 192 of the Hit It Here podcast, part of the Bleav Network, available on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review. And this is the Adam Beckwith episode of the podcast. He is undefeated when he goes to games in San Diego with the Mariners down there. Just the king, the GOAT, all right? He went to all 3 games. They swept him. He went to both games last year. They swept him then too. Adam.
A dusting.
Right, 2 games, dusting, yeah. So we need Adam to just go to all the games. That'd be nice. You know, we're also undefeated on the year.
That is true. So, even at the Aqua Sox game,
even at the Aqua Sox game, yeah, that's true. But how are we doing today?
I'm feeling good. Do the Mariners players hate their moms and their dads? Because they swept the dads, the Padres, and then we know how Mother's Day went. You know, like what's the deal? I think we'll really find out once we get to Father's Day. But sweeping the Padres was not on my bingo board, and there was a conversation about what we expected out of the Mariners over the next 9 games when we got to the 6-game homestand with the Blue Jays and the Yankees, and then the first 3 games of the Padres of this 10-game road trip, because the White Sox, that feels like a buffer series in between everything, right? I would have probably assumed at like the normal rate that the Mariners would go 4-5 over those 9 games. You win 2 against the Blue Jays, you take 1 of each from the Yankees and the Padres, just given how all the teams had been playing so far in 2025. Maybe you'd go 5-4 winning the series against the Padres, or maybe winning the series against the Yankees. That's not how it happened, but you still ended up going 4-5 over those 9 games. This is kind of what I expected out of this team. It was just an unconventional way to get there, because you get swept by the Blue Jays, but then you sweep the Padres in return, answering back any of the questions and doubts that any of us would have had coming off that homestand. Like, what does a 1-5 homestand? What does a team that goes 1-5 in a homestand look like going on a 10-game road trip against one of the best teams in baseball in the San Diego Padres? Well, you saw 1 run allowed per game by the Seattle Mariners pitching staff, and you just watched, like you said, a complete series win throughout.
Yeah, J.P. Crawford led that first game off with a home run on the first pitch of the game, and it was kind of all gas, no brakes at that point for the Mariners. I believe Cal had a homer in this game, Rowdy also with a big homer in this game. The Mariners scored 5 on 3 home runs. And of course, this game was started by Logan Evans. He went 6 innings pitched, gave up 7 hits, but spread them out. 1 walk and 3 strikeouts. Evans was great. And I think that one of the biggest things going into this series was that the pitching staff for the Mariners didn't look as tangible, as good as the Padres did, right? When you are facing Pivetta, you're facing King, you're facing Kolek. I truly did not think, just based on the pitching matchups alone, that the Mariners were going to be able to come away with a series win, let alone a sweep, but they were able to do that.
5 innings, 8 hits, 5 earned off Kolek, who was coming off a complete game shutout, I believe, in his previous start. And yes, it was his 3rd career major league start, maybe. Is that right?
Something like that, yeah.
So, again, we talked about it on the last podcast that the pitching advantage felt more so in the Padres' favor, and the Padres have had a better pitching staff by and large throughout 2025 so far, but the Mariners, for whatever reason, dug into their roots. Road warriors, the Mariners are. We'll continue to pound that drum. Emerson Hancock started the 2nd game. Does not go as deep, doesn't have as good of a start as Logan Evans, but there are some things in this start from Emerson Hancock that really kind of turned some heads. He hit 98, fastest pitch he's thrown in his professional career. And he kind of talked about what that felt for him, or how that felt for him, and how he's able to how he's been able to ramp up so far in 2025, because his velo has been up pretty consistently. It's just coming prepared, making sure that he's ready, and making sure that his body is able to do the things that he wants it to do on the mound in the moment. 4 2/3, 6 hits, 1 earned, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. A big strikeout of Manny Machado with the bases juiced. That was his last batter that he'd faced. And it was a big strikeout to get because, I mean, that's future Hall of Famer Manny Machado with the bases juiced in a close game. Like, I think, was it 1-1 at that point?
I think so.
So, again, you needed Hancock to give you, it wasn't a quality start, but that 1 run was all that he allowed, and he kept you in the game. The bullpen did a ton of work in this second game. Spire, 1 1/3, 1 hit, 2 strikeouts. Matt Brash, clean inning, 1 inning, 1 strikeout. Legumina, 2/3, a hit and a strikeout. I mean, we see these guys stepping into their roles. Legumina specifically in this one, a larger role for sure. And then Munoz getting his first 4-out save of the year?
So, yeah.
So going, beyond the 9th, Dan Wilson finally maybe lets the dog off the chain a little bit here, off the leash, lengthens it a little bit. We'll see if that's more, we see more of that, but I saw a lot of people praising Dan Wilson in this one for like a bullpen management masterclass. And if that is what led to this Game 2 victory and ultimate series win over the Padres, I'll take it. But it was another just solid game from like the main guys in your lineup. Cal goes 1 for 2, hits another homer. He's on pace for like, what, 60 homers at this point?
Something like that,
50 to 60 homers. He just keeps on hitting tanks.
He is on pace by WAR to have the best catcher season of all time.
Keep it up, Cal.
Over Buster Posey.
That's crazy.
So, yeah. I think that when you look at the way the pitching staff was deployed in this game, that's kind of what you want to see. You want your starter to get through there, and then you kind of have it set up right now where if you think Legumina is your 8th inning guy, and you think that Spire is maybe your bridge, like maybe 6th, maybe 7th inning guy, and maybe you have Vargas as your 7th inning guy right now. Matt Brash as well. I think that like back end of your pen is in a really good spot. It's more the Bizardos and the Jonathan Diaz's of the world that maybe don't really have a spot on this team, but thankfully the Mariners didn't really need them in Game 3, a 6-1 victory over the Padres, because Brian Wu, an absolute masterclass from Brian Wu. He's been so good this year. This, I would argue, was maybe one of his best starts of the season. 7 innings pitched, 5 hits, 1 earned with 5 strikeouts. Carlos Vargas came in, and then Eduardo Bizardo came in as well. Once again, holding them to just the 1 run. Randy Rosarena hit a homer in this game. I think one of the biggest parts of this game was the Mariners ended up playing add-on and got some insurance from Cal Raleigh and from Julio there in the 9th inning, which made it so Andres Munoz didn't have to pitch in this game because we know how overworked he's been. And I think that was big for the Mariners, knowing that they have the White Sox coming up next, the White Sox are better this year than they were last year, but they're still a bad team.
Yeah.
The White Sox still suck. The Mariners should handle them relatively. Like, I don't expect a sweep. I never do.
Sure.
But
you did just sweep the Padres.
And I didn't expect it. Sometimes it's the things you don't expect,
Yeah, expect the unexpected.
That's right. In this game, interestingly enough, Mitch Garver went 2 for 4 with an RBI in this game, which kind of leads us to our next topic here. The Mariners.
I mean, you look at all 3 of those players. Garver, Leody Taveras, and Miles Mastroboni all had pretty key moments in this game.
True.
Which even more so leads us into the next thing about like how much more time do some of the expendable pieces on the roster have, and who are the expendable pieces, and who in AAA, or just even further beyond that, if they really want to get in their bag, get weird, can come up and be a bit more of a stronger presence offensively on the position player side for the Mariners. We can talk about Garver first, though.
Yeah, so we all know the tale of the tape on Mitch Garver. He had a terrible season last year. He's been very hit or miss this year. He's either walking every single time he's up, or he's popping out to the infield and throwing his head down. He had a good game today, again. But Harry Ford has been on fire down in AAA Tacoma. He entered today with a 1.049 OPS in the month of May. It's now up to 844 on the season for Harry Ford, which the thing with Ford is you don't expect a lot of pop. You don't expect a lot of homers out of Harry Ford. And he's been more of an on-base guy. And again, that helps the OPS, of course, because he is always such a high on-base guy. But he's been slugging a little bit this year as well, which is good to see. His batting average, he's been hitting really well, just all around. And again, if you need a backup catcher right now, if Mitch Garver kind of goes back into a slump, I think that there's never been a better time to call up Harry Ford than right now. He's in the probably the best stretch of his career, in my opinion. And I think that if they're going to make that move, it should probably come sooner rather than later.
Outside of the WBC, of
Well,
course.
right.
Like his ability to impact the way that the Mariners are playing.
Right.
I don't think I can deny that. You've seen him come into some of the game power that we've all just been kind of waiting on to see. I mean, he hit one out of the stadium like earlier last week, I'm pretty sure. And if that's something that can translate, if he's finding barrels, if there's some sort of juice that he can bring to the team, some sort of spark plug, if the Mariners were, I think, if you flip their record, they were if they're 19 and 27, maybe I'd say you call up all the young guys.
Yep.
The hard part is when you're winning, you don't want to mess with that. And I understand that that's maybe why some guys are still holding on. I don't think Garver will go. Right. I think he finishes the season unless he goes on just a big downward spiral offensively. Like he absolutely bottoms out completely like Donovan Solano has. I don't see Garver getting DFA'd or traded or anything like that. I just think that they would carry all three at the same time.
Yeah.
And you have Harry Ford maybe play a corner outfield spot, try and run that back, see if he's got not any, but he's been catching a lot in Tacoma for obvious reasons because he's a catcher. But on the shock, I know. On the Mariners major league roster, if you carry all three of them, which they did last year with Sebi, like how many reps is Harry Ford really going to get? And if you call him up, you want him to get actual reps. So I think there's no better time than right now, but it does almost feel like right person, wrong time kind of a thing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that, these guys are professionals. They have to understand what's going on, and Harry Ford has to be like, okay, like I'm hitting the cover off the ball right now. I just need to keep doing it. I could see a world where players start to get a little discouraged when they're putting up the numbers that they are and they're still not getting called up. I mean, we saw it a lot from one Jared Kelenic back in the day. But a guy at a position that might be able to use a little bit of help is second base, and that's Cole Young, who has actually been better than Harry Ford. His OPS has been a little bit higher so far in the month of May. He plays a premium position for you, and he's been tapping into that power a little bit as well, which I think has been big for him, and he's been coming up pretty clutch. It allows you, if you put Cole Young at second base, it allows you to move Dylan Moore around, whether that be first base or third base.
Oh, first base, Dylan Moore, your favorite.
Yeah, that hurts me, but then it allows you to get rid of Donovan Solano.
I think that's the one player right now on the position player side that he's the first to go. He has to be the first to go. Miles Mastrobuoni is giving you more than Donovan Solano is, which is not a hard thing to do. If someone does go, it will be Solano. And I don't think if you call up Cole Young and you DFA Donovan Solano, I think that the roster still can like play out just fine.
Yeah.
Demo can play first base and it'll be okay. If they really are worried about more reps at first base for someone else, like it doesn't seem that way to me. Whenever they need, sure, they pinch hit Solano every so often, but he's seeing such little playing time that I think it's negligible having him there and having Dylan Moore there. Like there's not that much of a difference. And if it allows you to roster Cole Young to see what he's got, I hope they don't give him the Leo Rivas treatment of like playing him every fifth day, because that just would, again, any player that we're talking about trying to call up, you need to see what they have. You need to play them. You can't just call them up to be a vibes guy. They did that with Ben Williamson. He got a day off in the final game on Sunday, and a deserved day off. He's played well enough, but the offense has started to catch up to him, and he hasn't really adjusted super well. I wouldn't be I wouldn't also be surprised if it's a Ben Williamson. You just kind of send him down for X amount of time, 2 weeks, and you call him back up later once maybe Miles Mastrobuoni's done. Like there's so many options and ways that the team can kind of go with the way that the roster's currently constructed of like the players themselves. Williamson's probably not going to get sent down. That's just like, if you really wanted to, you could, but they'd probably send down Rivas before that anyways.
Right.
Since Rivas and Young are a bit more repetitive.
Yeah.
And you need someone to stay at third unless you're putting Dylan Moore there. But it gets all messy. But Cole Young, he's been tearing the cover off the ball. And it's the same conversation with Harry Ford is like, if you call them up, they just need to play. I think Cole Young has a quicker avenue to see more at-bats than Harry Ford does right now.
I think that's kind of what we've been feeling about Cole Young since the beginning of the season, right? Because we knew that Polanco was going to be playing third base and Demo was going to be handed the second base job. And obviously we didn't think that Cole Young was going to be up just straight out of spring training, but we knew that it could be coming earlier in the season than maybe we originally anticipated.
And the Bliss injury accelerated everything too.
Yeah, and so once Ryan Bliss got injured, and then Masterboni played well for a little while, and he's been fine, and Rivas has been good, but like how sustainable is that compared to getting at bats for somebody like Cole Young, who you might see as your future, and you might want to, see what you can get out of him, so he has those reps when either A, later in the season when it really matters, or B, in 2026 when he might be your starting second baseman. And so the Mariners find themselves in a weird spot where the team is winning, but they also have prospects that are not just knocking on the door, but like pushing it down.
Yeah, they're
like
pounding on it.
They're breaking the door. One of those guys, not necessarily, he's not a prospect anymore, but that's Dom Canzone. Also been hitting the cover off the ball. We know, people are kind of hit or miss on Leody Taveras right now and where they're at with him, which I understand. I think that he's kind of gotten a bad rep compared to like what he's actually been, but Dom Canzone has been on another level over the past like few weeks, and I think that we know what we're gonna get, what you get out of Dom Canzone. But if he somehow found another gear down in AAA, then you have to believe the Mariners will be willing to call him up.
A 157 WRC plus in Tacoma through 26 games. I mean, he is on a 17-game hit streak. We see clips, it seems like every other night, of him hitting an absolute tank, a moonshot. It's just, you need to see it translate to the major league level, and he just hasn't been able to figure it out. If Taveras continues to, I don't think that he hasn't been fully given a fair shot yet to like hold on to his roster spot. Like he needs probably another week's worth of at bats where he's batting 7th or 8th, playing right field every single game. Maybe through the road trip, and then at the homestand you could kind of make a decision there if you really think Dom Canzone gives you a better chance than Leody Taveras. And I mean, Rayleigh's playing catch. Like, how much longer is Rayleigh going to be out? It's really like things can change, and the team has to adapt to how those things happen. With Canzone going down and hitting very well down in Tacoma, I'm sure that they're probably thinking about it. It's a conversation that they're probably having internally, like, okay, how much longer do we give Taveras in right field before we call up Dom Canzone? Because I don't think they'll do Thomas again.
No.
I feel like they'd rather go with Dom Canzone, especially if he's hitting so well. The hard part is with the outfield, it feels like a more set in stone place where you're probably okay with Taveras out there, as opposed to where a lot of people see the Mariners' real desperate need of a position upgrade is first base.
Yep.
Specifically the right-handed side. Because Rowdy, on the road, like after his 0 for something to start the year, he's been really good. Like he's actually been good. There's just been moments specifically at home, I think he hasn't looked exceptionally sharp, but road Rowdy, I mean, he homered twice in this Padres series.
Yeah, he did.
If you continue to see him stay hot on the road, he's going to win you a couple games this series. So if it's Locklear there too, I mean, there's a couple guys down in Tacoma that genuinely could make an impact on this team within the next week and a half, 2 weeks. I really just don't know how much leash all the players that are ones that will be replaced have. It's hard to say, because you'd assume that a guy that's playing as poorly as Donovan Solano would be off the team.
You would think. Yeah.
However, here we sit, and he's not.
And we've been talking about this for weeks.
Yeah, so it's like, can we really assume that Cole Young will be called up in a week's time? Can Harry Ford, like, will they pull that trigger? Because we haven't seen them do it before, which is the hard part. If there was an example of this happening previously, I think you could make a more foundational, more concrete assumption. The only one you can really say is Dom Canzone, because he's not in that same level, I think, as Locklear, Young, and Ford, where they're feel more prospecty.
Right.
Canzone's kind of he's kind of run his course of, okay, we need to see him figure it out at the big league level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at this point, like, is Dom Canzone just a quad A player?
Mm-hmm.
And that's certainly possible. I think that, like, you give him one more shot, just to see if he's got something. And if he does, awesome. If somehow him hitting 320, 364, 680 this year so far, so he has a OPS above 1,000,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think that that's the best he's ever been in his career for an extended period of time. And I think that if the Mariners want to give him one more chance, why not? Like, if you have to DFA Leody Taveras, okay.
Yeah.
It's not a huge deal, right? The defense that you lose there, sure. Leody's a much better defender than Dom Canzone. But if you're still looking for offense, and I mean, if you would have asked us a couple days ago, we'd say, yeah, the Mariners need offense bad.
True.
Literally just before this Padres series. And then all of a sudden, they're scoring 5-6 runs a game again once they get on the road. There's something about T-Mobile Park. I don't know if you guys have ever heard it before, but it's a hard place to hit. And,
you're telling me that for the first time.
I didn't know that. But I don't think, Joe, that it's an overreaction to say that Dom Canzone can be on this team tomorrow and has probably a pretty good chance to impact right away.
Yeah. I don't think that's an overreaction at all. And that's not my Operation Overreaction. I don't really know how to classify this. This is more of a take. It's not necessarily me overreacting to something, I don't think. And I could be wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. I am glad. I'm happy. I think it's better for the team overall that they play up to, like, the aces. They're able to take down and go head-to-head, toe-to-toe, scratch, tooth, claw, nail, whatever, against the better pitching in baseball than them performing poorly against guys that should never strike out, like nine batters over 5 innings, like Will Warren. I think it's better for the team, and I would trust that team to go further in a postseason type situation, because you're only going to be seeing teams that likely have, like, the best of the best stuff. I think I am okay with them playing down to teams, if so long as they play up, because you can beat bad teams even if you play down to them, because there's a larger margin of error for those teams.
True.
The teams that have a better ceiling that you're playing up to, they're not going to make as many mistakes. So if you're playing up to them, you're matching them at that level. There's a smaller window of outcomes to happen.
Okay.
I'm not mad that they play down to teams, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
And talk to me in 3 days after this White Sox series, because Lord have mercy, it's going to be. Oh, I can feel it now, like how much rage I'll be feeling if they play supremely down to this White Sox team, and it completely backfires. But going into San Diego, sweeping the Padres when pitching advantages are to them in 2 of the 3 games. I'd say Wu is an advantage over King, but it's close. I wouldn't really get upset if someone said Michael King's a better pitcher than Brian Wu. Like, I can understand the argument, probably.
I think that's true.
Yeah, right. It's like, yeah, it's not a hard. It's not a big conversation.
Like,
that's
Wu's
not
still great.
Yeah, it's not an overreaction.
Not an overreaction.
Yeah,
That's right.
So I think it's good that they play up to these teams, though.
Yeah, I think that
it's just, it comes with the bad side of it.
This road trip's a good litmus test for that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you have the Padres, one of the better teams in baseball, and then you have the White Sox, who have, again, been better this year. They're still the White Sox. They still suck. And I think that the Mariners obviously played very well versus the San Diego Padres. Versus the White Sox, their pitching staff's been pretty good, but offensively, they just haven't been that good of a baseball team. And I think that when it comes to the Mariners, if they're able to hit off of these pitchers, not in Cy Young contention, if they can somehow find a way to do it, then this should maybe be a series sweep. Maybe I don't know. First game on Monday, Luis Castillo versus Davis Martin, who is probably a guy who's pitched before.
Certainly a pitcher. That's totally not a created player. He's got a 3.65 ERA on here. Good for him.
Yeah, they're 14 and 33 on the year. Davis Martin, again, I have no idea who he is, but apparently he no shot. He's been around since 2022.
He threw 63 innings in 2022. We're learning things here, guys. We're learning things.
Who is this man? He's gonna carve up the Mariners.
I've never seen this guy before in my
Me
life.
neither, and he's gonna carve us up.
Exactly. They're going to play down to them, but they'll still manage to win because there's going to be a larger variety of outcomes that can happen because the White Sox are a poor baseball team. See?
Okay.
See?
Yeah.
See how the logic is logicking? You mentioned that they are pitching well, pitching better. Maybe I would assume that this is a better team ERA than last year's White Sox team because
I guarantee it. Yeah.
they currently are pitching to the tune of a 4.23 ERA. The Mariners, after this series against the Padres, have lowered their team ERA to 3.83, under 4. That's great news because after the Yankee series, it ballooned quite a bit. I would like to see, just as the starting pitching, how the Mariners are faring now because TJ from the Marine Layer podcast pointed out it was the starting pitcher's ERA after the Yankees series. The starters have been bad. They have not been effective. Or at least they weren't in that stretch of 6 games. It's down to a 4.08 ERA, 19th in all of baseball. So not great, but still okay. You have a big advantage offensively, which is no doubt in my mind.
Where were the White Sox starters on that list?
Were they at the bottom?
No, they're 16th.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, so
They got a 3.9.
yeah, it's really the White Sox starters that have been
Keep
kind of
winning
carrying
games.
the freight for that team. Believe it or not, the Mariners have faced Davis Martin before.
Interesting.
Not many of them. Randy is, I mean, this could have been when he was with the Rays, but
Yeah.
he has 1 hit. It's a home run versus Davis Martin in 4 at-bats. Cal has faced him in 1 at-bat. Don't know what happened.
Sure.
And Jorge Polanco has faced him as well. So I don't know who the hell this guy is, but apparently the Mariners have faced him at some point. Against Luis Castillo, obviously he's been around for a while. The hard part is it's a young White Sox team, so a lot of them haven't had the opportunity to see him. When I look through the guys that have faced him, though, I mean, the most at-bats is Matt Thaiss at 12. Makes sense. He was with the Angels.
Yeah.
He's hitting .083 versus Luis Castillo in those 12 ABs. The only person who has had seen any success in any extended period of time is Andrew Vaughn. 1 hit and 3 at-bats. So, they just haven't really seen Luis Castillo, which I think makes sense. Game 2. Now, the Mariners have not listed a starter yet. There is talk that it could be George Kirby coming back. We've talked enough about that for you guys to know that we think that he'll be the first game of the Astros series. But nonetheless, I think the more likely outcome here is that they do go with Jonathan Diaz in that start, who obviously the Mariners had called up when Bryce Miller went on the injured list. And he's going to be opposed by Bryce Wilson, Joe.
Bryce Wilson was a Brewer. I think the White Sox, did they just sign him this offseason? Was he a free agent?
That sounds right.
He's not pitching very well to start the year. He's got an ERA of 6. So that bodes well. I think his expected ERA is even worse too. He has been not effective for the White Sox. But that being said, it is Jonathan Diaz making a start. Are we going to see 4 innings of scattered hits and no damage, or is it going to be a blow-up thing where you just have to hope that the offense outperforms the White Sox, which they should. Keyword, they should. The Mariners, mine got to have a 115 WRC plus on the year, 6th in all of baseball. The Chicago White Sox are sitting at a nice 77. I just baited the entire thing. I said nice, assuming it was going to be 69, but it's not nice. That's not very nice of me.
No,
that was kind of rude.
Yeah.
My bad, guys. My bad. A 77 WRC plus, the 3rd worst team WRC plus in all of Major League Baseball. If the Mariners cannot provide enough runs for Jonathan Diaz to keep them close, it'll have to be a big blow up, I think. Unless, of course, Bryce Wilson figures it out in this game, which, sure, based on what I said earlier and how jinxing things works, will happen.
When the Mariners lose this series, it's your fault.
I know. And we're talking about it so much so that we're trying to reverse jinx it. But now that I've acknowledged it, we can't reverse jinx it.
carry the 4.
So we have to like reverse jinx it.
This is getting too complicated.
It's
I'm
like-
gonna talk about some numbers actually instead.
Yeah, got it.
Rowdy Tellez owns Bryce Wilson.
Owned.
He is his father. In 14 at bats, he has 2 home runs and sitting 357
Owned.
versus Bryce Wilson with a 1.295 OPS. Jorge Polanco is 1 for 1 with a home run as well, and otherwise the rest of the team really has not seen him at all. So again, we don't have the numbers pulled up for Jonathan Diaz versus the White Sox. I don't know if he's ever faced the White Sox,
Especially with how young this team is, probably
right?
not.
No shot. But again, this could be George Kirby, and then they have him pitch later in the Houston series than we originally expected. That's certainly possible, though I don't think that's going to be the case. Joe, you have numbers pulled up about Bryce Wilson. Lay them on me.
This is actually not Bryce Wilson. This is the next guy. Bryce
Oh.
Wilson, we don't need to talk about him. He's bad.
Yeah.
Kirby, there's been some conversation about Kirby. Well, they don't know if they're going to do another rehab start. They haven't decided that fully. So if they haven't decided that yet, I don't imagine he starts this White Sox series or he'll make his debut. I think it is strictly the 6 days rest that he's been pitching on with Tacoma in his rehab start, which would put him Thursday opening the series against the Astros. Like, I am 100% bought into that being where we see George Kirby next. So if it's going to be Diaz in like a bullpen, you put it together kind of game, which is the middle game of this series leading you to the final, where you've got Logan Evans coming off the best start of his career against Shane Smith. Certainly a player, certainly a pitcher who's got a 2.05 ERA.
He's been good
through 9 starts, 48 innings pitched for Shane Smith. It's just a created player's name. Like, these guys aren't real. I don't understand where doesn't even have a picture on Fangraphs. He doesn't have a photo.
What's this man look like?
He doesn't exist. He is a figment of our imagination. That picture of him on MLB.com probable pictures is not real. It's generated.
It's AI generated?
It's AI generated.
AI slop?
AI generated Shane Smith.
Unbelievable.
I feel confident with Logan Evans coming off the best start of his career. Also, having some of the baseball gods smile upon him, changing that play to a Ben Williamson air, lowering his ERA like several runs.
Mm-hmm. Literally cut it in half.
Yeah, so that the baseball gods should continue to smile upon Logan Evans in the series finale against the White Sox. Like, is that the best starter you're going to face? I mean, it looks like it just based on numbers, but none of them have a ton of pedigree in the MLB. Like, none of them have, I mean, neither is Logan Evans. But I trust the Mariners offense, who has a bunch of veterans, a bunch of guys who are also playing super well right now, to take it to this White Sox pitching staff.
And they should. It's a team that you should beat pretty handily. Not saying it's going to be a sweep, but I'm saying it's certainly possible. Logan Evans, I think coming off of his last start, I'm pretty confident in the fact that he can go out there and handle a pretty bad White Sox lineup. I think that what we saw him do versus the San Diego Padres is a huge step in the right direction for Logan Evans. God.
Still happening.
God. For Logan Evans. And I think that, as we get closer to some of these guys returning, it's kind of imperative for them to continue to go out there and have really good starts. I'm so interested to know who of Evans and Hancock gets sent down when everyone's healthy.
Evans.
Yeah, you think so?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
I honestly am leaning Hancock at this point.
I mean, sure, you can continue to audition them over the next several starts of who is pitching better at the time. You will ride the hot hand. Mm-hmm. I would assume that they'll kind of level out. I don't know if Evans will continue to pitch to the tune of a 2.57. You know what I mean? I don't know if he'll continue to do that. We've seen success out of all the starters that have come up through the system outside of really Hancock fully, like Gilbert, Kirby, Miller, Wu, like in their debut seasons, all be very good, very solid, reliable.
That's
the one I meant to say.
Yeah.
So if it does end up being Evans, I won't be surprised necessarily, but I would lean, you give each of them 3 more starts. I think Hancock will pitch better in those 3 than Evans will. But
I just don't think they'll get 3 more starts apiece.
No?
3 more weeks?
I mean, it depends on how quickly Miller and Gilbert both come back.
Yeah.
I mean, if Miller and Gilbert both come back, Hancock and Evans are gone.
Yeah.
Unless they go a 6-man. So
people were talking about it on the radio today. They might go a 6-man.
Well, so long as they're bought into what Dan Wilson is saying, if anyone can convince the Mariners pitching staff to go to a 6-man rotation, apparently it's Dan Wilson.
That's a fair point. Yeah, because Scott definitely couldn't do it. That's going to do it from us here on episode 192 of the Hit It Here podcast. We appreciate you guys watching this one, and go Mariners.